Hi, let us continue with our chapter 8 on implementation of the strategy, focusing on the marketing, R&D, finance and accounting, MIS. So in the last video, we have stopped up until market segmentation, and now we will continue with another important element of marketing, which is on product positioning. Product positioning is also another important key towards your successful implementation of your marketing strategy. It entails developing a schematic representation that reflect how your products or services compare to competitors on dimensions most important to the success in the industry. So we talk about dimensions. Successful dimensions to a particular industry is totally different from one industry to another industry. For example, kalau kita ambil industri telekom, for example, the dimensions would be different. Maybe perhaps in terms of the quality and comfortness. Those are the two important elements that people will look into when they go and select the telecom. They don't mind nowadays. People don't mind to pay a little bit higher or a little bit expensive on the telecom, especially during the month of Ramadan, because we spend a lot more time to do our ibadah. So we need to have something that is very comfortable and the quality of the kain as well, because we put on ourselves a longer time as compared to during the month of other than the month of Ramadan. So the dimension is different from one industry to another industry, and the most important thing about product positioning is we want to put our product not in the same category as the competitors. So this is the steps that you can read through on how to come up with a product positioning. And most importantly is we want to look for a vacant niche. Let us go for an example that would be much more easier for me to explain. For example, if we are looking into product positioning for banks, for example, this is for banks, and then they are being evaluated based on dimension of conservative and personal or impersonal or aggressive. That is the criteria. So if these are all the banks that are already in the industry, so if you want to come up with a new bank, you need to position your bank not in the same position as the existing competitors. For example, maybe you want your bank to be located here. So it is a little bit conservative, but it is very personal. Not that highly conservative, but it is highly personal. So maybe that could open up more venues for your product. And then, for example, another example, personal computers. This is good customer service, bad customer service, and then low capability and high capability. So you need to plot your competitors first, and then you identify which vacant location that you want to place your product. Speaking about telecom just now, Siti Khadijah was very successful because they use an effective product positioning maps. They position their products at a very high end range, because they know that currently nowadays, beginning from 5 years ago, the percentage of women at work is quite high, is increasing. So they know that the dual income family percentage is quite high. So it is not a problem for them to position their product at a little bit expensive end as compared to the existing price of the regular telecom. And then they provide also comfortness, because they have done the R&D in order to ensure even if you put your telecom more than 1 hour, tidak akan ada stretch marks on your forehead ataupun dekat muka lepas kita buka kita punya telecom, for example. That is among the technology or R&D that has been implemented based on the Siti Khadijah telecom, and that's how they position their products. So the rules to use product positioning, number one is to look for the vacant niche, and then we do not want to serve two segments with the same strategy. For example, if you have this segment and this segment for your different product, so you cannot use the same approach, because this one is very personal and this one is impersonal. So if you use the same marketing strategy, it is not going to be effective overall for your company. And don't position yourself in the middle of the map. We do not want to be here. Because of why? Because there is no identity. So we need to locate ourselves in a vacant niche, so that number one, we can create a clear and distinct identity about our product. So the next one, we want to discuss on the finance and accounting issues. Some of these issues you guys have already discussed in ENT530, exactly pretty much the same element. So I'm not going to discuss in greater details on the finance and accounting part. So some of the things that we talked earlier on when we want to implement a particular strategy is on how you want to raise the capital. So here in this particular section discusses on how to raise capital, either through short-term debt, long-term debt, preferred stock or common stock. And then another issue is in terms of to lease or to buy fixed assets, to determine an appropriate dividend payout, and to use LIFO, last in first out, or FIFO, or market value accounting approach. And in this particular section also, they discuss in terms of how can we evaluate a particular the worth of a business, there are several ways that we can do that. Number one, we can identify through what a firm owns, through their assets and everything, and then what a firm earns, and then what a firm will bring in the market in terms of their market price, and then the firm's common stock, for example. We can base on that factor. And this chapter also discusses on the R&D issues. Sometimes we can apply these R&D issues in order for us to support the existing strategies that we want to pursue. For example, we can decide whether we want to emphasize on products or process improvement. We want to stress on basic or applied research. What is the difference? You should know better. By now, you already learned on your research method what is the difference between basic and applied research. Basic is more on to explore, to identify, to describe a particular phenomenon. And applied research, we want to test, to identify a new product, for example, more on experimental. So that is more of an applied research. And then be leaders or followers in R&D, whether we want to be the first one to introduce a new product, that could give you an added advantage by becoming the leader in the industry. Being a follower also, there is an advantage, meaning that you don't have to pursue or incur too much heavy investment in terms of doing the R&D and whatnot. You can simply copycat from the existing product and you try to come up with a much better product. For example, many handphone brands nowadays that which is compatible dengan Samsung, dengan other brands like Apple, but they are selling it at a much cheaper price. And then develop robotics and manual type processes, spend a high average or low amount of money on R&D, and even use university researchers or private sector researchers for more industrial or academic engagement. If possible, we always want to be the first firm to market a new technological products, because the customers will always associate us with the advance of the technology. And we also want to be an innovative imitator of successful products. Thus, we can minimize the risk of cost startup, or we want to be a low-cost producer, so that we can mass producing the products at a much cost, at less expensive than products being recently introduced. And finally, we talk about management information system issues. Having MIS may be the most important factor in differentiating successful from unsuccessful firms. During this era of our situation at the moment, with the pandemic and whatnot, having a good MIS is very important. a friend of mine who their family has a business in the market, pasar basah, jual ayam, almost closed down their business because at the beginning of the PKP there is no sales. But they come up with a new system, Kajang Fast Runner or something, a new apps in which people in the Kajang area, Putrajaya and also Bangi can make order through online, and they will deliver your order according to your needs. Nak kulit, tak nak kulit, nak potong macam ni, potong 16, potong 12 dan sebagainya. And now they are surviving. And that's how important is the MIS for some of the businesses, especially for the small businesses nowadays. Even for large organizations, they need to have some sort of a system where they can monitor their employees. Nowadays, I only log in and log out through my handphone, and even the top management can observe from where did I locate, or when I first clock in. They can look at my map in terms of my location at the time when I clock in during the morning, during morning, and also when I clock out in the evening. So they can check that out through the system. Business analytics is a management information system technique that involves using software to mine huge volumes of data. They call it as predictive analytics, machine learning, and data mining. And you guys should know this better because nowadays you guys are all taking business analytics. And this is very important. That's why we changed from FYP to business analytic report, because now people like to have an infographic. So you guys should know on how to present those big data in a more interesting and infographic manner. So I reckon that is the end of the chapter. So I'll see you guys again in the following chapter. Till then, take care.